What if a black hole suddenly appeared near the Earth? Have you ever wondered what that would mean? Would we be instantly sucked into a cosmic vortex without escape-ex? Or would we have time to understand what is happening before witnessing the collapse of our own planet? Space is a place full of mysteries, and black holes are undoubtedly one of the scariest and most enigmatic phenomena in the universe. They are so powerful that not even light can escape their gravitational attraction, and if one of them came close to us, the effects would be felt long before any possibility of direct contact. But how would this happen? What would we see first? And most importantly, would there be any chance of survival? First of all, it is important to understand that black holes are not devouring monsters of planets, as many imagine. In fact, they follow the same laws of gravity as any other heavenly body, with the difference that their density is so absurd that it creates a curvature in space-time that challenges all logic we know. Now imagine a black hole emerging near the solar system. He would not need to be even close enough to be visible to the naked eye to start causing damage. The first signs of this event would be subtle, but increasingly terrifying. Astronomers around the world would realize that the orbits of the planets began to suffer small, inexplicable disturbances. The trajectories of the Earth, Mars, and even Jupiter would begin to divert subtly, an initial effect caused by the intense gravitational force of this new cosmic intruder. Shortly thereafter, another phenomenon would begin to occur. The light around us would be distorted. This would be because black holes have an effect called gravitational lens, which doubles the light of the stars and objects around them, creating a bizarre look in the sky, as if we were looking at a deformed mirror. At first, this could be confused with a common astronomical anomaly, but as the black hole approached, the effect would become increasingly noticeable and scary. The constellations would seem to move abnormally, and stars could momentarily disappear from our field of view, just to reappear in unexpected places. Then the tremors would begin. The gravitational influence of a black hole can generate devastating seismic effects. The Earth's crust could suffer so large tensions that they would cause earthquakes on a global scale. Sleeping volcanoes would erupt simultaneously, expelling huge amounts of ashes in the atmosphere and covering the sky of darkness. Oceans would be agitated by invisible forces, creating mega-tsunamis that would sweep entire cities on the coast. Even before any direct contact, the world would begin to feel that something terrible is happening. But the worst still would be to come. The very passage of a black hole through the solar system could completely destabilize the orbit of the Earth, throwing our planet closer or farther from the sun. If we were pushed away, freezing. Temperatures would take over the globe, turning everything into an inhospitable and cold landscape, similar to what we see in distant moons of Jupiter and Saturn. If we were dragged closer to the sun, the extreme heat would evaporate whole oceans, burning the surface and making any form of life impossible. Now I want to know, if a black hole came up near the Earth, do you think we could escape in some way? Or would we be condemned to watch powerless while our planet is slowly destroyed? Comment down here and tell me, do you believe that science could find a solution, or that would be the inevitable end of humanity? Hold on there, because now we will understand if we would really be sucked immediately, or if there would still be time to try to react to this cosmic event. If you got here, you have realized how scary it would be if a black hole came up near Earth. But now what? Would we be sucked instantly, or would we have time to try to escape this inevitable destination? Before continuing, I want to know your opinion. If that really happened, do you think humanity would have a chance to survive, or we would be convicted? Comment down here. Earth can still survive if you believe there would be a solution, or there is no escape. If you think this would be our end, and if you are enjoying this journey through the mysteries of the universe, don't forget to leave the like. This helps the channel too much, because it shows YouTube that this content is relevant and makes more people explore these possibilities with us. Subscribe now and activate the bell, because every week we have new videos with questions that challenge our understanding of the cosmos. Now holds there, because in the next block, understanding exactly what the impact of the arrival of this black hole would look like and what would be the devastating effects we would feel on Earth before the end. If a black hole arose near the Earth, the effects would be felt long before it even became visible. This is because black holes not only distort the matter around them, but also affect the tissue itself. And before anyone could notice their presence in the sky, something strange would begin to happen. The planets, including Earth, would suffer subtle disturbances, but for astronomers, they would be undeniable signs that something huge and invisible was approaching. The first noticeable effect would be the change in the orbits of the planets and moons of the solar system. Any celestial object near the black hole would begin to feel its gravitational strength, which would result in small but growing changes in its paths. Initially, this could go unnoticed for most people, but in astronomical observatories around the world, scientists would begin to notice inexplicable deviations in the positions of Mars, Jupiter, and even our moon. Small calculations would reveal that something massive was interfering with system stability, and then would a black hole be approaching? But what would really confirm this hypothesis would be the arrival of gravitational waves. These disturbances in space-time would travel the universe and can be detected before we were even visited to any visual evidence of the black hole. This is because black holes change the severity around it so intensely that they create true waves that spread throughout. We currently have instruments that can detect these waves, such as LIGO and Virgo, which have already registered black holes collisions to billions of light years away. Now imagine what would happen if such a powerful source was within our own solar system. These gravitational waves would affect everything around us, creating instabilities in the orbits of the planets and even causing micro-variations in the structure of the Earth, causing earthquakes and other seismic anomalies. At the same time, another strange effect would begin to emerge in the sky, the distortion of light. This is because of the gravitational lens effect, one of the most striking signatures of black holes. This effect causes distant starlight to curve around the black hole, creating a surreal visual phenomenon. The night sky would begin to look distorted, as if we were looking through a curved glass. Stars would change their position in a strange way. Some would seem double or blurred, and others would simply disappear from the field of view to reappear to another point seconds later. Over time, this effect would be increasingly intense. The light around the black hole would begin to form what we call Einstein's ring, a bright circle created by the extreme curvature of space-time. This ring would get bigger and bigger in the sky, signaling that something truly monstrous was approaching. For those who did not know what was happening, it would seem like a heavenly show without explanation. But for scientists, it would be the definitive warning that something catastrophic was coming. Meanwhile, the gravitational effects of the black hole would intensify. Earth, like the other planets of the solar system, would begin to suffer severe disturbances in its orbit. If the black hole were close enough, its strength could get our planet to move away from the sun or be pulled toward it. If the Earth were thrown further, we would dive into an absolute cold era where the oceans would freeze and life would become almost impossible. If we were pushed closer to the sun, we would face temperatures so intense that they would evaporate water and burn the planet's surface. In either case, humanity would be at serious risk of extinction, but that would not be the worst of the scenarios yet. If the black hole were at a critical distance, it could begin to directly affect our atmosphere. The air around us would be slowly sucked, escaping from the Earth towards the vacuum of space. This would be because the immense severity of the black hole would change the balance of our atmosphere, creating an atmospheric erosion effect, similar to what happened to Mars over billions of years, but this time occurring in days or weeks. The sky would begin to get more and more thin, and atmospheric pressure would fall, making breathing increasingly difficult. In addition, Earth's own magnetic field could begin to collapse. This field protects us from solar winds and cosmic radiation, but with the presence of a nearby black hole, its operation would be drastically affected. This would mean that besides losing part of the NOSS, the atmosphere, we would be completely exposed to lethal radiation from space, increasing the risk of diseases such as cancer, and even causing large-scale genetic mutations. Now imagine the reaction of humanity in the face of all this. The first weeks would be marked by conspiracy, misinformation, and widespread panic theories. But as phenomena became undeniable, governments would try to find a way to minimize damage. Space missions would be organized to study the black hole closely, while scientists would try to find out ways to protect the Earth or, at worst, find a way to evacuate part of the population to other planets or space stations. But here comes the big question. Would it be possible to escape the influence of a black hole? If he were close enough to affect our orbit and our atmosphere, would there still be any hope of survival? Could science find a solution before it was too late? And if there was no escape, what would be our last moments before Earth was braked by this cosmic monstrosity? Now I want to know about you. If a black hole were approaching the Earth, do you think humanity could find a way to escape? Or would it be impossible to avoid our end? Comment down here, science can save us, if you believe there would be a solution, or it would be the end of humanity, whether this would be our final destination. A lot of people imagine a black hole as a huge cosmic vacuum cleaner, sucking everything around it instantly. But would the Earth be swallowed immediately? The answer is not as simple as it seems. The influence of a black hole depends on several factors, such as its size, its distance, and its speed of motion. If a black hole appeared near our solar system, it would not even have to approach too much to begin to dramatically affect life on Earth. Small gravitational changes could trigger a sequence of catastrophic events even before we are swallowed by this cosmic monstrosity. If this black hole were billion kilometers away, its gravitational influence would be remarkable, but it would not cause immediate destruction. However, even at this distance, the planets of the solar system would begin to undergo small changes in their orbits. This is because a black hole generates gravitational distortion in the space-time around it, and this distortion can slowly modify the trajectory of the planets without being close enough to be sucked. The first effects would be virtually imperceptible for those who live on Earth, but astronomers would perceive abnormal changes in planetary orbits. If these changes were significant, it could result in long-term impacts, such as a displacement of Earth to the closer or farther from the Sun, something that, as we have seen, would be catastrophic for life on the planet. Now, if this black hole were within the solar system, the effects would be much more intense and immediate. The enormous gravitational strength of this massive object would begin to dramatically disturb the stability of our system completely, disorganizing the perfect dance of the planets around the Sun. The first thing that could happen would be the destabilization of Earth's orbit. Depending on the position and trajectory of the black hole, it could pull our planet away from its current route, throwing us out of the solar system towards the deep and cold space. This would mean a gradual freezing of the Earth, because without the light and heat of the Sun, the temperature would drop quickly. Integer oceans would become vast. Glaciers, the atmosphere would begin to dissipate slowly, and surface life would become impossible. But there is another, even more frightening scenario. What if the black hole dragged us closer to the Sun? This could happen if its gravity pulled the Earth to a shorter orbit, reducing the distance between our planet and our star. The consequences of this would be equally disastrous. The extreme heat would make the polar hubcaps melt rapidly, the oceans would evaporate in massive steam clouds, and Soon the Earth's atmosphere would become too dense, creating an uncontrolled greenhouse effect similar to what we see in Venus. Temperatures would rise to unbearable levels, making the planet's surface a scorching hell. Life, as we know it, would cease to exist. But what if the black hole not only destabilizing the planets, but also directly affecting the sun? This is something that would completely change the dynamics of our system. The sun, like any star, depends on a delicate balance between the gravity that keeps it cohesive and the nuclear fusion pressure that happens at its nucleus. If a black hole came close enough, it could suck Part D solar matter, creating a chaotic scenario where our sun would gradually lose mass. This could reduce its ability to generate heat and light, leading to a drastic drop in the temperature of the entire solar system. At first, sunlight would begin to weaken, making the days darker and colder. Over time, if this mass loss continued, the sun could become unable to support its nuclear fusion, slowly fading until it became a dead and cold heavenly body. Another terrifying possibility would be if the black hole began to capture gas and matter in the sun more violently. This would create a disk of accretion, a surplus, formed structure that rotates at speeds near the light around the black hole. This album would radiate an absurd amount of energy, becoming one of the most brilliant and dangerous things in the universe. But at the same time, this intense radiation could bombard the Earth with an amount of X-rays and gamma radiation so high that it would destroy the ozone layer and make any form of life on the surface impossible. But perhaps the most apocalyptic scenario of all is if the Earth was pulled directly to the black hole. In this case, what would happen? Our planet would begin to approach slowly, and as it entered the extreme gravitational field of this cosmic monster, would feel the effect of spaghettification. This is the scientific term used to describe what happens when an object comes too close to the event horizon of a black hole. The gravitational force exerted on the nearest part of the Earth would be much larger than the force felt on the opposite side, stretching the planet until it was completely destroyed. The soil would begin to tear, the oceans would be torn into space, and the atmosphere would be completely sucked. Even before we crossed the event horizon, the point without return, the Earth would no longer exist as a planet. What if a black hole completely absorbed our planet? Time, from our point of view, would continue to run normally until the last second. However, for an external observer, the Earth would seem to slow down as it approached the event horizon. This is because time within the influence of a black hole behaves differently from time outside it. For those who were watching from afar, it would seem that the Earth never really crossed the event horizon, as its image would be frozen in space-time. However, for those who were on the planet, time would normally follow until the final moment, where we would be completely disintegrated by the overwhelming gravitational force. Now I want to know your opinion. If a black hole showed up near Earth, do you think we could find a way to survive, or would it be our inevitable end? Comment down here, science can save us, if it believes that technology and human knowledge could find a solution, or there is no escape, whether this would be our definitive end. If a black hole were close enough, what would the last days of humanity be? The idea that our planet could be destroyed by an invisible and inevitable cosmic force is scary, but what would really happen? Would we have time to realize what was coming? Would the collapse be instantaneous or slow and agonizing? And could somehow a small group of humans escape to tell the story? In the early days after the arrival of the black hole in the solar system, gravitational disorder would have completely transformed our reality. The planets would already be diverting from their natural orbits, and the Earth would face extreme changes. But as the black hole approached increasingly, the effects would become even more destructive and irreversible. The first big event would be the so-called extreme tide effect. Normally, the tides on Earth are influenced by the gravitational attraction of the Moon and the Sun, but with such a close black hole, this force would be hindered. Whole oceans would begin to be pulled to opposite directions, forming mega tsunamis that would spread across the planet at absurd speeds. The coastal cities would disappear in a matter of minutes, and even the interior regions would be flooded as water was forced to move chaotically. At the same time, the Earth's crust would begin to suffer intense gravitational tensions, something much worse than any earthquake we've seen before. Imagine entire tectonic plates being pulled and twisted as if they were made of paper. The result would be a global seismic collapse, with simultaneous earthquakes destroying cities and creating gigantic cracks that would swallow everything along the way. Buildings would collapse, bridges would fall, and mountains could be literally torn from the ground. And then the volcanoes would begin to awaken. The graviforce black hole-tation would cause the underground magma to be shifted violently, causing eruptions to occur mass, throwing toxic ashes and gases into the atmosphere. The sky would become dark, blocking the sun with dense soot clouds, plunging the planet into an almost permanent diamond state. The temperature would drop dramatically in some regions, while in others, the heat of eruptions would make air breathable. But this is not yet the worst part. As the black hole approached, an even more destructive process would begin. The Earth's atmosphere would begin to be torn. This would be because the extreme gravitational force would cause the air particles to be sucked away from the planet, making breathing increasingly difficult. Oxygen and nitrogen, essential to life, would gradually dissipate in space. At first, people would feel a slight drop in air pressure, but in a few days, lack of oxygen would become critical. Only those who had access to pressurized air reserves, such as bunkers or underground bases, could resist a little more. And if all this already looks like an apocalyptic scenario, wait until you understand what would happen to time itself. The presence of a nearby black hole would cause a phenomenon known as extreme temporal dilation. This means that the closer to the black hole, the slower time would pass to the observers in that region. If someone were on the surface of the Earth as the black hole approached, time would seem to continue normally for that person. However, for someone watching from afar, perhaps from a space station or another planet, it would seem that the Earth was slowing down, as if they were trapped in a frozen time state. What does this mean in practice? For those on Earth, the last days would seem normal at first, but for those who were far enough, we would see the planet entering a cosmic raylant, where time would be so slow that, from the external point of view, it would seem that the Earth would never be completely swallowed by the black hole. But of course, for those on the planet, the destruction would be real and inevitable, and then we would come to the final moment. If the Earth continued to be pulled toward the black hole, the last moments would be the most terrifying. As the planet crossed the event horizon, the point without a black hole, the spaghettification would begin. This effect, as we mentioned, occurs because the gravitational force on the closest part of the object is much larger than the farthest part. This would make the whole planet be stretched like a spaghetti wire, until it shatters completely. First, the outer layers of the atmosphere would be torn out, followed by the oceans, and finally, the Earth's own crust would break into fragments that would be absorbed by the black hole. For an external observer, this would be the end of the Earth as we know it. But for those who were on the planet, time would seem to slow down so much that the last seconds could seem to last forever. For those who were further, such as a space station or a colony on Mars, the view of the destruction of the Earth would seem to happen in slow motion, with the planet gradually disappearing into a vortex of absolute darkness. Now, imagine the psychological impact of this event on humanity. For those who knew that destruction was imminent, the last days would be marked by a mix of despair and acceptance. Some people would try to escape to places that they believed to be safer, while others would simply accept the inevitable destination. Governments would collapse, communication networks would fail, and civilization would go into a state of total anarchy. And even if some people could survive for a while in underground bunkers, that would not be a long-term solution. Without atmosphere, without sunlight, and without a stable planetary system, the Earth would no longer be a home to humanity. The only real hope would be in space. But would there be time to evacuate a part of the population? Could any civilization survive to tell the story of the planet that was devoured by a black hole? Now, I want to know about you. If I knew that a black hole is coming towards the Earth and we have only a few days of existence, what would you do? Would you try to hide? Would you seek a way to escape to space? Or would you simply enjoy your last moments? Comment down here, I would fight to survive. I would accept the inevitable, or I would try to escape to space. So I know what your choice would be. If you got here, congratulations. You are part of the select group of universe explorers who really want to understand the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. Now tell me, if a black hole row was coming towards the Earth, what would you do? Comment down here, I would face the unknown, so I know you watched until the end. And since you liked this content, don't forget to leave the like. This helps the channel too much and shows YouTube that this video deserves to be recommended for more curious like you. Subscribe now and activate the bell, because every week we have new videos exploring amazing and apocalyptic scenarios of the universe. And look, here is already appearing a video that will explode your mind. What if the moon suddenly disappeared? Click now and continue this journey by the unknown.